How's everyone doing? My name is William A. Thomas. Hope everyone's weekend is going well. It's going into Memorial Day weekend 2021. Who would have thought it's starting to warm up? Barbecues are going to start. But let's talk about where the fire is being lit. And that fire is being lit. It was lit earlier by Judge Joe Brown and Kwame Brown, which, by the way, I don't know if they're related. Both of their last names are Brown, but doesn't mean they're related at all. But either way, these two gentlemen set the internet by storm on fire. So let's look at some of the things that they actually talked about real quick. If you are on this channel, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, because we have lots of content that you can actually use to benefit you in business, personal relationships, and life. Whatever the case, if you don't know who Judge Joe Brown is, back in the day on his TV show, he always had it animated, he kept it real, and he didn't play any games. You weren't going to go on to Judge Joe Brown's show and try to, for lack of a better term, BS him. If you were going to go on Judge Joe Brown's show, you better have everything together or he was going to tear you apart. Reason why is because Judge Joe Brown, he is a man that's heavy on the influence of integrity. He believes that whatever you do in secret, it's going to come out, in public. So you may as well go in there, tell the truth, and he's usually fair. I always thought the show was pretty entertaining. Anyway, and Kwame Brown, if you don't know who Kwame Brown is, by now, especially with everything that's been going on Al Gore's internets right now, it's pretty hard to miss. But for those who don't know, Kwame Brown, he is a former NBA basketball player, played in the league for about 12 years, was drafted #1 overall in the draft at the age of 18. Some would dispute and say that he was a bust. Others would say that 12 years in the NBA, making over $65 million, that's pretty successful there. Either way, Kwame Brown has recently been speaking out and fighting back, especially with the different labeling that the media does with these athletes. So, real quick, if you have a problem, with that, it's not necessarily always a matter of the game. If you want to talk about the game, then you can talk about the game. If you want to say that so-and-so has been missing shots or has been turned the ball over, all those different things, that's not a problem at all. But once you get into the game of labeling people, calling people, bust or different names like that over and over, that label can stick with you even long after you retire from whatever type of sport. And that's what Kwame Brown has been recently dealing with and addressing. He's run into the likes of Steven Jackson, Charlamagne Tha, Matt Barnes, and so on. I think he calls them the go along, get along game. And Judge Joe Brown, for those who have seen him outside of his show, you would know that he's very outspoken. He doesn't really hold anything back. And he kind of says some things that may ruffle a lot of feathers. Judge Joe Brown is almost like that grandpa that you have. He has no filter. And why? Whenever you get to a certain point of life, you usually don't have any filter anyway. So I can definitely appreciate that. So one of the things that they were talking about, though, was Charlamagne Tha. And you look at where he actually got his name from. Now, Charlamagne, I don't know if you guys, just a quick history lesson. He was the king of the Franks. This was back in the end of the 700s, the 8th century, and he was the emperor of Rome. And Charlemagne, or as some would call Charles the Great, by Charlamagne the God, Leonard taking on this name, it means that he may find some type of humor in this, or maybe he has some type of synonymous life. I'm not sure. But just like Judge Joe Brown had said, I wouldn't want to say, hey, I'm Adolf the Great. You would get canned. You would get roasted and everything from there. So I thought that that was an interesting tidbit and information that was being given. Now, regarding the go along, get along gang, Kwame Brown, he actually has been using that phrase, and he's more so talking about people in the media and sports and celebrities who just pretty much go along with the status quo. A lot of it sometimes ends up pertaining towards Black people. A lot of times, whenever Black people get in certain positions, they can speak and do based off of who's paying them. And not really, it applies for anyone. If I were to work for the local bank, I am going to speak in accordance of the bank. But if I want to keep my job, I'll probably not say anything bad about the local bank. And that's pretty much how it is. The problem is that most of these people, most of these celebrities, most of these sports athletes, they're getting paid an extravagant amount of money to where they could technically speak whatever they want. And especially if they have the masses following them, they they may not have to worry about any type of recourse. Now, yes, there is the cancel culture. Of course, we know that that ends up happening. But for the most part, if you're really good at what you do, really, really good, top of the game, it doesn't matter as much what you do, what you say, who you support, or whatever. Ask Floyd Mayweather. So that's what it ends up coming down to. Most people, most regular people end up going along to get along based off of their paycheck. What Kwame Brown is pointing out is the fact that a lot of these people in these positions, they have the paycheck to where they may not have to keep on doing that because there's always options. For example, if you say something to where CNN doesn't like it, and you know that the Fox viewers might like it better, you can always go to Fox. Or if you say something Fox doesn't like, then you can go over to the AP, or you can go over to the New York Times, or you can go over to NBC, or you can go over to one network. Any of those different things. We have options, but most of the options that you have run congruent with your bank account. And that's the thing that's key. So when you're in these positions, you have a different responsibility based off of what you say, because there's a lot of people that are following you. And with those people following you, if you're really good at what you do, they're not really following whatever network or league or whatever. They're following you. So you have the ability to be able to speak out. But the other thing that, Kwame Brown has pointed out in his videos is that a lot of times there are people that are in certain positions, and their main goal is to keep people in line, to make sure, hey, you, don't you do too much, because I don't want you to get up here. But I will fight for your ability to stay off of the dirt bottom because it makes me look good. In essence, what ends up happening is it looks like a managerial system. Some people would say it resembles how things were in slavery. But overall, we know that there are people that are put there to keep others in place. And you have the choice of whether to listen to those people or to be able to get informed and get knowledge and grow. Which brings me to another point. What Kwame Brown was doing was what's called sitting at the feet of an elder. Of course, he wasn't in person with him, Judge Joe Brown, I'm not sure exactly where he lives, but they were actually able to live stream and, go on Al Gore's internets, which we appreciate. Thank you, Al Gore, for the internets. But through that, Kwame, you would notice one thing is that the ratio of talking to who's listening, Kwame Brown did a lot more of the listening, while Judge Joe Brown, who in this case was the elder, was doing a lot more of the talking. And there were some vital pieces that were given in addition to just what's going on in the media and different, I don't know whether to say beefs that Kwame Brown may have with different people, but some valuable takeaways. One of them is Judge Joe Brown had talked about what to do if you're in a situation of getting questioned by federal agents compared to state agents, and how a lot of people actually put themselves in position to get in trouble because they're saying the wrong things or they're saying things that could end up hurting you. And I always have been one to recommend that people always have access to legal counsel. You always want to have access to attorneys, but for the most part, everyone doesn't follow that. Maybe everyone doesn't have the ability to do that, but there are resources out there to be able to help you in those situations to where you can have access to attorneys, to where you can actually know your rights. So I really appreciate them covering that topic. For a lot of it, I would say definitely follow Judge Joe Brown. He definitely knows what he's talking about. He has an extended period of life. He's basically a seasoned older gentleman. And a lot of times when you find that you sit down with those type of people, and I would recommend everyone do this. Find an older person within your community, whether it's an older aunt, a grandmother, a grandfather, someone of the sort. And I want you to look at two things. One is, let's say that they are in the situation that you actually want to be in. What you want to glean from them is the struggles and the things that they actually went through and how they were able to get there. Also, what you want to do is you want to be able to find out about the things that they look to avoid, because a lot of times you'll find that there's really nothing new, and a lot of things that we end up doing are things that we should have avoided if we would have had the foreknowledge to be able to go another way. Now, the other group that I want you to find are people in that same age category, but people who don't necessarily have what you want. And I'm not putting out any type of judgment on anyone, because a lot of times as people, we all have different things that we want. There are some of us who are okay with living in a small house. There are some of us okay with living in a cardboard box. But there's some of us who, want mansions or want sprawling large houses and different things like that. But what I'm saying is, based off of where you are or where you want to be, find someone who does not have those things. Find who's an older person. And what I want you to do is ask them, if they're willing to give the information, what are some experiences that you learned from that you're willing to pass on to me? What are some things that I should probably avoid to not end up outside of my desired outcome? Those two things, by talking to those two types of people, you can find yourself positioned to be able to truly prosper. So that's why I really appreciate what Joe Brown was doing and taking his time, because he's retired, yeah, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't have things that he could be doing. Judge Joe Brown, he might want to go fishing all day, or he might want to just relax all day. I'm not sure what he does nowadays, but For Kwame Brown, he just received a treasure trove of information and a bunch of golden nuggets that will be able to help him in his journey along in his lifetime. So, with that, if you like what you just heard, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can know when I actually put videos out there. We like to cover different things in life, whether it's in business, relationships, economics, or spirituality. We get into it all. But the most important thing in regards to what I saw today was this: listen to your elders, good or bad. If they have what you want, listen what they did. If they don't, listen what they tell you to avoid. And that's basically some food for thought. And with that, I'll let you do the dishes. Peace.